This is like an ingenious marketing tool. Not that I think James Patterson needs this to sell books, obviously. Co-writing is a one draft process. Hey guys, I'm Kate. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to start taking James Patterson's masterclass on writing. I'm also gonna bet at some point during this video, you might get an ad for that very course. Because I have personally succumbed to the marketing. It has worked. Let me actually pull up the masterclass website. James Patterson teaches writing. Yes, he does. Oh wow. First I want to point off how the opening image for his course is just him surrounded by all of the many books he has written. That's probably not even all of them. What a legend. Okay. Oh wow. You gotta fill stuff out about yourself. Okay. Interesting. While I'm doing that, I do want to say that the reason I'm taking James Patterson's course first is that I've heard it's the best one from a lot of people. I've also heard that like Neil Gaiman's is really good, and also that Margaret Atwood's is awesome, but every single person I've talked to who has taken the classes have said that James Patterson's was their favorite by far, so I'm ready. Okay, what am I most interested in learning from James? How do I become him? How do I have your career? I too would like to sell books. Just generally, I'd like to work on my outlining. How to write books people want to read. Smiley face. Nailed it. Ugh, that was too close. What is my proficiency level in writing? Beginner, intermediate, experienced, advanced, expert. I'm gonna call myself intermediate. Yeah, I'll call myself experienced. I've been doing it for a while. That feels okay without being too gross. How familiar are you with James Patterson? Let's go with slightly. I'm ready. It looks like we have, ooh, good, there's a lot of parts on outlining. 22 lessons. I guess it closed 21 lessons maybe. Ooh, and workbooks, okay. All right, I'm excited. I guess it's time to do the intro. Oh, lesson discussion, this is cool, okay. Masterclass.
Hi, I'm Stephen King. Well,
That's
actually,
cute.
I'm not Stephen King. How to make a chapter work. We'll deal with outlines. Outlines are huge. We might do a couple of chapters on outlines. We'll talk about marketing at some point.
Oh, good too.
And it's exciting to me to stimulate people to go out there and write not just great mysteries, but whatever kind of book you want to write.
Okay, wow. Oh, wow. We moved very quickly into the next one.
Somebody said you're lucky if you find something in life.
Okay. So 8 minutes and 37 seconds. Oh, you can download the workbook. Very cool. So just from the brief intro, it sounds like this might be slightly more beginner than I expected, but this is kind of what I was interested in regarding masterclass, just because I think all of it's gonna build. So even if you select an expert, you might want to start at the beginning. But I kind of want to try this for other things that I definitely don't have as many skills in, like cooking. Do they have cooking ones? Search real quick. Cooking. There is stuff on cooking. Okay, wow, Gordon Ramsay. Anyways, okay. But that's not what this is about. This is about James Patterson. I am going to go ahead and download the workbook now. Oh wow, there are 66 pages to this. Let's see if when I go to the next one. Can you see that? Dang. Okay. Oh, we're not at raw ideas yet. Things you might need. Class workbook, lesson discussions, office hours. Let's go on to the next one then. I'm not gonna print this out, but I am gonna go find my notebook. All right, let's get started.
I am as passionate about writing books today as I was when I was 19 years old. No matter what happens, whatever setbacks, however hard it might be, that you keep that passion alive, because that's going to drive you through the hard times, and it's going to really make you enjoy the good times.
Oh, on to the next lesson. Okay, so you can see I did take some notes. Sometimes these are for me for the course, like as I'm reviewing it, but also other times actual notes. And by actual notes, I just mean nuggets from the thing. For instance, resilience underlined. So the interesting thing about these master classes, and again, as we go farther along, because this is just kind of the intro still, I do think some of the magic of it isn't just that this famous person is teaching you writing so much as talking about writing and how they do it, but also that we're seeing a success story. So as James Patterson is talking, I'm like getting myself hyped up. So that's good. Interesting notes were that his first novel was turned down by 31 publishers, but then it won that year's like best first novel award. And he talks a little bit about the reasons, you know, these publishers might have passed, but also maybe they were wrong. You know, it's a good sort of discussion. And then how all of his short stories were rejected, so he can still feel the pain now. And I like that it has reinforced so far a lot of the common advice, and that you need to build a habit of the writing, and that you need to write your million bad words in order to like move on in some ways, to like get to the good stuff sometimes. So in that vein, again, so far just this intro, it's not necessarily anything groundbreaking, it's just, you know, James Patterson talking about it, which is really cool. Also, because I've just talked about writer stereotypes recently, I think it's interesting that he reinforced the idea that writing can't be all pain. It can't be all hard. Your passion and your enjoyment of it needs to push you through. And he has this cute little story about how his grandfather said, you gotta be singing when you go into work. So I liked that. Just breaking down that tortured artist stereotype more. So today's July 11th, and the last time I tried James Patterson's Masterclass was in May, but guess what we're doing today? We are returning to lesson 3, raw ideas. I don't think I noticed this before, but I like that it tells you what the topics include. Ooh, but is it a book? Is it? I'm sure there's something to be said for doing this more like an actual course that you might have attended in person once upon a time. But I think, you know, one of the great things about Masterclass is this flexibility. So 2 months later, I can still return to the same class, same lesson. James, I'm ready. Now I'm ready. Click. Okay. Ba, 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 ba. So I actually really liked that last lesson. I had a lot of personal takeaways for the class specifically. So like, I mean, he talks about how ideas can come from anywhere and how his least favorite question is like, where do you get your ideas from? I think that's the bane of any writer's existence. The more he talks about his books though, and I, call me crazy, I've never, oh hello. Even though I've seen James Patterson books like on display, I have never necessarily felt the need to pick them up. Don't have an explanation for that, just never thought, but the more he talks about his books, I'm finally like, I think I should read these. I think I'd like these. So it's kind of, this is like an ingenious marketing tool. Not that I think James Patterson needs this to sell books, obviously, but you know, it's just one of those interesting things. It's a nugget, like this little nugget. Do you want to come up here?
What a good puppy you are. What a good puppy you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you see this? This is what she distracts me with. I also think she wants to eat my little rainbow cranes.
Nope, Zelda.
Oh, he closes it off with something that I liked. That he says he doesn't think he can teach you how to tell if a book is a book. As in, like, can you tell a full story about this? So even though you need to be excited about something, that excitement is not the be-all end-all kind of thing. I guess I just like that he said he didn't think he could teach it. And this is probably my own bias, but I have like, pre this course, but generally other master classes that people have sold, I get kind of a smarmy feel for them. I think this feels a lot different because it's one website that's getting all these huge people and a bunch of different courses, but I think it's just hard to shuffle through what a master class is from other people. So anyways, I've always had this kind of thing. So I guess there's just some part of me that's still a skeptic that likes that he's like, nah, I can't teach you everything. And I certainly can't teach you everything you'll need to know in this course alone, but like this is a good starting point. So, okay. Now I feel like I'm about to get into the meat. Is it weird that y'all can't hear? Whoops. He changed locations. We were here. Now we're here. This really has nothing to do with the course. I just wonder, like, how long did it take to shoot this and how many different locations do they have? Yeah, I should just get it together. That has nothing to do with anything. Okay.
Common mistake that writers make, especially young writers, is they don't do an outline.
Okay, James. I feel like he's talking to me. So, full confession. First off, it's been a while since I started doing this class. Well, hello, Zelda. It has been a while, yeah. Oh, do you just want to show me the belly? Do you just want to show me the belly? Is that what it is? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Am I allowed to talk to the camera now? Oh, I also initially started out using my friend's account, so I'm using my account I did buy Masterclass. I'm ready to learn about outlines and just hear myself get attacked by James for why I haven't really done them that much before I start writing. You know, this is a lesson I've really learned in the past year, since usually I re-outline after my zero draft, that maybe slowly over time, I too can outline before the zero draft. I don't know. All right, James, lay it into me.
They just wing it. They just start, you know, and that takes a certain amount of discipline. But I guarantee you, you're going to do a better book. It's going to take less time.
I think it probably does take less time if you do an outline. Okay, so after having said all of that, I don't know that his process is actually that different than mine, just that we call it different things. He talks about outline layering, how his outlines usually take him 2 months to write. There's lots of interesting sort of nuggets in this, but then he also talks about writing TBD, just moving on and stuff like that, and then how your outline's like this growing, breathing, sometimes contracting document all itself, which is not that different than my zero draft method. I'll say that his is probably more refined. Like, he makes a really interesting point about how you should be able to have someone read your outline and be compelled and excited for the story that you'll eventually tell, which I thought was really interesting. Like, it should be comprehensive enough, but still just the outline. He also kind of recommended you have people read the outline. And I really did like this comment here.
Everything that I'm telling you, I have gone through, okay? I have gone through where the outline isn't working. I've thrown out occasionally outlines. I'm constantly dealing with chapters that aren't working.
Just to show, you know, that we all get stuck. But then he also makes a point about how sometimes getting stuck in an outline can be a good thing, because it's like you've worked yourself into such a corner that you're gonna have to try and figure out a very creative solution to get out. Like, most people would give up and say no, but some of the most creative hasn't really been read before or not that often. Things are found here. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics. It really reinforces the idea that this is a master class and that this is how James Patterson does it, not how everyone should necessarily do it. It's a lot like the I tried writing like videos that I do. We all have different processes to do the same sort of thing. So I do think if you followed all of the advice in this James Patterson Masterclass, like, you probably would be successful and that you would definitely write a book, you know? But like, as you continue to do that, you would probably fine tune it in such a way that works better for you personally. So I'm actually really excited to try the other masterclasses on writing and just see if there's any contradicting sort of theories on things. We're about to actually hit writer's block and I cannot wait to hear more in depth what he has to say about that. Let us bring our notes. And play.
That's one of the reasons that people love novels. But that's what you have to do. You have to create that character that they're not going to forget. I don't mean it's going to be the most important person in their life, but I never forgot that. I never forgot the character because I got to know them so well through the talent of the writer.
I finished. I feel like I'm setting up my desk and getting ready at school each day, and James Patterson is my teacher. I'm on Writing Suspense, lesson 13. I did have the epiphany the other day that I wasn't doing any of the workbook, so I pulled that back open and I found this section of like, you know, possible exercises you can do along the way, and I have a couple of like points of criticism with it. But also, I think the workbook's really helpful. So like that's the dynamic we're playing with here. Let me get you. Because on the one hand, as you progress through the lessons, like when I got to that outlining bit, it actually recommended you write an outline. And they make a point of being like, you know, this process can take James up to like 4 months, so don't rush it. But also being like, go ahead with the rest of the lessons if you want. Let me pull up my download, which has an interesting title. I actually want to take y'all back to, where did I first notice it? Is it Raw Ideas? So this is really cool. They had this section where we do raw ideas, and then you can critique people's raw ideas. So like there's a whole forum-based system surrounding this that if you're willing to explore it, I think it actually is really helpful, especially just to see what other students are sort of taking away from the lectures and stuff like that. But and I think it's this one. Within their workbook, they have these links that you can click, but the links, you will notice, don't really go to the place like this. This is it. They don't go to the place they're supposed to go. And when I was on the forums, I did find like someone else had asked that question and a moderator had come in and be like, oh, we moved it, it's over here now. But then they'd put all the critique videos that James did in one place, except then they were missing some, so they had to add some. Like, it's just one of those things. Technically the content was there, it's just making it a little bit harder to find, and I don't know that the average user would have gone through all that trouble necessarily, when I do think it was potentially really helpful. So it's just an unfortunate sort of thing, and I understand that like updating the workbook with the new links is kind of hard depending on how many masterclass lessons they have and all sorts of stuff, but like I feel like it shouldn't be that hard. Anyways, the content, still good, with an asterisk. I have Writing Suspense, Ending the Book, Editing, Working with a Co-Author, Getting Published, Book Titles and Covers, Marketing the Patterson Way, Hollywood, and Personal Story, and then Closing left. I would argue that as someone who's less beginner and more intermediate, I am maybe more interested in these sections of stuff, and I'm circling back to, while I've taken like plenty of notes, masterclass, and then I think I did, there's masterclass continued, but so is this one. Like, oh yeah, I was really excited. There was the line from the commercial. Anyways, because I'm personally intermediate, I don't know how much this is helping me in comparison with a more in-depth book would. I think this is great for beginners though, and I do think there are nuggets that I'm taking away, or at least like fun anecdotes that, again, it's inspiring to see someone like James Patterson teaching about all of this. I am gonna go back and attempt to do the Gordon Ramsay one as a beginner cook and see if that really is where masterclass kind of shines for me. Or is it like writing is an art that's like cooking's an art too, but at least there's slightly more exact things to get the desired outcome. Writing, though it has its formulas a la save the cat, and like the little nuggets that James Patterson is saying you absolutely must have, like, to make a good commercial fiction success. And I do appreciate that he's constantly making that clear in his statements, but like, it's not quite the same as cooking versus writing. And I think one just might be easier to teach, a period, but also just in this format. Yeah, that took me way longer to explain. Potentially because no coffee had been consumed yet. We're gonna do a sped up version of this as I complete the rest of the lessons. I don't know, 9 more of them. And then I will go over my notes, especially the parts that I put like stars next to that I was really excited about, and go over this in full. But the vlog aspect of this, the more I'm coming to my conclusion, seems a little bit less needed. God. Okay.
Your ending is usually important.
Okay, so I've now finished James Patterson's masterclass on writing, and I want to go over some of my notes. 1 page, 2 page, exercise page. Okay, so I took 5.5 pages of notes on this thing. That's pretty impressive in itself. I did think in the back half it was really interesting to hear his take on co-writing. I think that's just been a big mystery to me for a while now. And basically what happens is that though the co-writer does the writing, James Patterson really does most of the outlining and the arguably and debatably story creation. This is where I think it's so interesting, right? Because is the bones, the meat, the whatever, you know, is the story the writing, or is the writing the writing? And of course the co-writer has a little bit of input, and they go back and forth on some things, but apparently the co-writer really only does 1 draft, and then James goes and edits it and then sends it off to his editor and publisher, right? So it's an interesting dynamic. In fact, I put the quote, "Co-writing is a 1 draft process." There were other things when we got to the back half with the publishing, where his advice on like query letters was just sort of okay. And that really what I wish he would have said is like, look up what the agent specifically wants, rather than being like, well, you could send them this or this. It's like, no, just send them what they request. And it's clearly been a while since he's had to do stuff like that. And he even made mention later when he was talking about Hollywood and stuff that his agent doesn't even take like a percentage. It's based off of the hour, which is interesting. Completely different than what standard agents, especially today, are. But speaking of the Hollywood stuff, I really did like his anecdote about how he was like on set, or he was talking with one of the producers of one of the Alex Cross movies, and James Patterson was saying how, well, I think this part of the book would be really good to include in the movie and blah blah blah, and the guy wrote him a $250,000 check because that was such a good idea, and they'd already bought the movie. They'd already bought it from James. He was showing how the relationship you have author to like movies and entirely, it's so separated, and you know, he has a very cynical outlook on Hollywood, which I can appreciate, because we see a lot of authors on Twitter nowadays talking about how they have no control over if their book is actually ever made into a movie. And it's just crazy to see James Patterson, the James Patterson, having the same thing. The same problem. Ultimately, I think this class is good for beginners, and it's good if you just want nuggets of wisdom. I did write down a lot of nuggets of wisdom that I liked, such as hit the consumer in the face with a cream pie, then say something really smart. Stop them, sell them. The cream pie being the book cover. So, you know, there's an interesting mashup of, you know, advice that we've all heard before, but put into a nice condensed way, and then also James Patterson being the one to say it. That's really where I feel like this was cool for me. I don't know, having taken the course, that I would pay only for the course at the stage of the writing game that I'm personally at. I am, however, wanting to teach Zelda how to do a little sausage roll. So like I kind of want to take, they have a dog training one, which I know nothing about, and then I mentioned the Gordon Ramsay one, which I'm not a good cook. I don't cook. So that one would be really helpful because I'm genuinely a beginner in those things. I start a lot of stuff. There's a lot of fun nuggets of wisdom in here, like mentioning it's not just you, it's you and the reader, and keeping that in the forefront of your mind the entire time you're telling the story. Again, not stuff I haven't heard before, but I still liked it. So please do comment down below. Let me know if you have signed up for Masterclass before. Let me know if you've taken any of the classes. Let me know if you've read any of James Patterson's books, or if you had any kind of preconceptions about his co-writing method. I had seen the books in the store where it's like James Patterson really big and the other author like slightly smaller, and just the sheer volume that he's produced, and been like, I wonder what that means. So it was kind of nice to at least hear it from his perspective. He did have some of the co-writers on, so I got to hear it from their perspective too, so I guess that was cool. But thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you especially to some of my new patrons this month: Phantom Chaser, Rachel, Jillian Holderfield, Chelsea Bartlett, Christina Creech, and Mary Benson, and I will see you all very soon with a new video. Bye! And I will let you know how the dog training goes. Okay, bye.